Alright folks, pull up a chair and lock the safe for a minute, because today we're ripping the band-aid off some of the most overhyped shotguns ever sold. I've spent weeks combing through forgotten threads, yellowed manuals, and angry voicemail transcripts from guys who thought they bought the next big thing. What we ended up with is a rogues gallery of scatterguns that look tough in the catalog, feel solid in the store, and then betray you the first time the chips are down. From rust magnets to recoil monsters, these 10 picks will make you thank your lucky stars you watched this before clicking buy now. Let's roll, and we'll kick things off with a pump that tried to outsmart Mother Nature and got humbled fast. Picture this: 2009, Remington's still living large off the 870 legend, the pump-action workhorse every cop, hunter, and homeowner swears by. They decide it's time for a glow-up, so they wrap a fresh shotgun in this glossy armor-lock polymer armor and dub it the 887 Nitro Mag, swearing it'll laugh at mud, salt, rain, whatever you throw at it. They price it right around $400 to $500 to slide in between cheap Mossberg 500s and fancier Benelli Novas, offering 26 or 28-inch barrels, a full 3.5-inch chamber, and a blacked-out tactical look that screams modern reliability. The marketing push is huge, targeting waterfowlers who hunt corrosive marshes, tactical shooters needing a bulletproof home defender, even weekend clays guys wanting something fresh. Ads show the gun dunked in swamps, hosed with salt water, left out in storms, and still cycling smooth as silk. It's supposed to dominate the mid-range market, steal sales from proven classics, and cement Remington as the innovator. First Range Day tells a different story. That fancy armor-lock skin starts peeling like dollar store paint after a couple magazines, letting rust bloom overnight. The pump, which should feel like the 870's little brother, grinds and sticks with every stroke, gritty and stiff. The trigger is a heavy, soupy disaster that ruins any chance of tight groups. Shells jam in the lifter, double feed, or just sit there mocking you while the gun's nose-heavy balance drags the muzzle down and the Firearm blisters your hand by the third box. It's uncomfortable, unreliable, and a total betrayal of everything the 870 stood for. Instead of revolutionizing the segment, the 887 became the punchline for style over substance failures, got quietly killed off, and now lingers only in cautionary tales and dusty bargain racks where smart buyers keep scrolling. Let's jump ahead to a shotgun that's the ultimate rock star of firearms, way more famous for shredding screens in action movies, video games, and that epic T-Rex showdown in Jurassic Park than ever earning a permanent spot in police armories or serious tactical kits. The Franchi Spas, 12 burst out of Italy in 1979, looking like a prop from a futuristic thriller, boasting a hooked heat shield, a folding metal stock for compact carry, and the killer feature, a lever to switch seamlessly between pump action for heavy slugs or low recoil rounds and semi-auto for unleashing hell in a hurry. It carried a hefty premium price back then, enough to buy a solid used motorcycle with inflation factored in, all for an 8-round tubular magazine loaded with 12-gauge power, marketed hard to military special forces, SWAT operators, and anyone craving that Hollywood operator vibe. The upsides were real. That dual-mode innovation was ahead of its time. The stock folded to shrink it down for vehicle ops or room clearing, and the menacing profile alone could intimidate without firing a shot, while its pop culture immortality keeps it legendary. But reality hit hard. Weighing in at almost 10 pounds empty, it was a back-breaking slog to haul around all day. The gas-operated semi-auto mode was incredibly finicky, jamming constantly on anything but hot magnum loads, and turning your rapid-fire dreams into single-shot frustration. Mode switching felt awkward and slow under stress, like solving a riddle mid-fight. The safety button was prone to bumping off accidentally, a huge risk in chaos, and cleaning the complex gas system with its tiny parts demanded tools, time, and patience that no field operator is spare. Police trials exposed the flaws fast, with departments rejecting it for unreliable performance and going back to lightweight, no-nonsense pumps like the Remington 870 or Mossberg 590 that ran dirty and never quit, leaving the Spas, 12 without a solid market foothold beyond limited exports. The 1989 U.S. import ban crushed civilian access by deeming it non-sporting due to the pistol grip and detachable stock, sealing its fate as a niche oddity. Today, it's a collector's darling, fetching way more on auction sites than it ever did new, prized for rarity and screen time rather than function. A perfect cautionary tale of cool looks trumping dependable performance in the shotgun game. You know, even the giants in the game can fumble the snap, and Browning's early BPS stalker from the late 80s is a prime example of a Hall of Fame brand shipping something that just wasn't ready for prime time. They started with the rock-solid BPS platform, famous for that bottom eject magic that keeps brass out of your buddy's face and makes lefties feel seen for once, then wrapped the whole thing in matte synthetic furniture, slapped on a non-glare finish perfect for sneaking up on mallards at dawn or glassing muleys in the snow, and hung a price tag around $600 or $700, which back then put it squarely in the premium hunting category, going head-to-head with tricked-out Wingmasters and high-end Berettas. On the plus side, the ergonomics were pure Browning, smooth lines, great grip texture, and that 3-inch chamber swallowed everything from light target loads to heavy waterfowl magnums without complaint. It looked the part, felt balanced in the hands, and the bottom load/eject was a legit game-changer for southpaws who were tired of eating hot holes. But man, those first production runs were rough. Tolerances were all over the map, so shells would hang up in the elevator like they were stuck in molasses, especially when the gun got cold or a little grit worked its way in. The trigger pull routinely creaked past 7 pounds, turning follow-up shots into a wrestling match, and the action, which should have been silky, scraped and grated like a rusty hinge on an old barn door. Worst of all, those supposedly bomb-proof synthetic stocks cracked right along the wrist after one hard season of leaning against truck cabs, getting tossed in the blind, or just soaking up recoil from a few boxes of 3-inch steel. Word spread fast in duck camps and upland leases. Guys who dropped serious coin expecting heirloom quality ended up with a safe queen that needed constant babysitting. Browning, to their credit, didn't sweep it under the rug. They quietly tightened machining, beefed up the stock material, and smoothed out the action in later runs. So today's BPS stalkers are absolute tanks. But those original misfires left a scar, and you'll still hear old-timers at the lodge shake their heads, warning newbies to check the serials or just grab a later model, because nobody wants to be the guy whose premium shotgun turns a perfect morning in the marsh into a jam-clearing marathon. Let's talk about the early Benelli Nova Tactical, the late 90s budget pump that tried to crash the Mossberg and Remington party with a radical twist. Benelli, those Italian wizards famous for butter-smooth semi-autos that cost as much as a used pickup, decided they wanted a piece of the working stiff pump action market, so they sculpted the Nova Tactical from one giant slab of polymer, receiver, and stock fused together like a sci-fi prop. Then hung an 18.5-inch barrel on the front, stuffed a 4+1 magazine underneath, and opened the chamber wide enough for 3.5-inch Magnum shells, all for right around $400. The pitch was simple, lighter than steel, immune to rust, tough enough to ride in a patrol trunk or get dragged through a swamp, and priced to steel sales from the 590 and 870 police models that every cop shop and paranoid homeowner already trusted. Gun stores flew the first shipments out the door faster than free coffee, because who wouldn't want Benelli quality at Mossberg money? Reality hit like a cold shower. That seamless polymer fortress felt blocky and front-heavy, swinging like a cinder block on a broomstick. The infamous shell drop gremlin meant rounds sometimes bailed out of the mag tube straight onto the deck instead of sliding home, turning your rapid defense tool into a single-shot joke when seconds counted. The Ferend rattled like loose cafeteria silverware. The pump action fought you every stroke, and if you dreamed of slapping on a weapon light or side saddle, you'd better own a drill press, epoxy, and a colorful vocabulary, because factory rails didn't exist. The stock was chunky, the grip angle punished small hands, and the whole balance made quick shouldering feel like wrestling a toddler. Benelli's halo dimmed. Word spread this was their economy experiment, not their pride and joy. Later Novas and the Supernova line fixed the feed, smoothed the slide, and added accessory options, but those original tacticals still haunt the used racks, cheap for a reason. check the serial, cycle the mag, or just walk past and grab a proven 590 instead. Nothing screams rookie trap louder than snagging a Stevens 94 off the dusty pawn rack, just because the price tag reads like somebody forgot a zero. Savage has churned this single-shot break action out since the Great Depression, pitching it as the unbreakable farmhand special. Everything from full-bore 12-gauge down to pipsqueak 410, tipping the scale lighter than your thermos, and historically going for less than a decent steak dinner. On paper, it's the gateway drug for new shooters, plinkers, and grandpas who just need to pop crows off the corn crib, and for decades it owned that ultra-budget corner nobody else wanted to touch. Thing is, the second you touch off a heavy slug, the paper-thin receiver flexes like aluminum foil over a campfire. The walnut stock swells in the rain, then splits along the grain the first dry spell. And misfires pop up, so often you start timing your shots with a comedy drum roll. Plenty of old models skipped a proper trigger guard altogether, figuring a finger on the bang switch is close enough to safety when you're only chasing rabbits. Sure, the break action is dead simple. No magazine spring to lose, no pump to short stroke under stress, and it'll still fling light birdshot at clay pigeons all day if you baby it. But ask it to handle real field abuse or back-to-back boxes, and it folds faster than a lawn chair. Recoil punishes your shoulder like a personal grudge. The barrel heats up quick enough to brand cattle, and resale value hovers somewhere between wall art and scrap metal. In a world where even entry-level pumps from Mossberg or H&R deliver triple the durability for just a few extra bucks, the Stevens 94 survives purely on nostalgia and tight wallets, teaching every owner the hard way that rock-bottom pricing almost always buys rock-bottom reliability, leaving you with a quirky conversation piece instead of a tool you can trust when a varmint shows up at dusk. Mossberg, the kings of building indestructible workhorse shotguns that cops, hunters, and weekend warriors swear by, got a little too ambitious back in the early 2000s when they decided to fuse their legendary 500 platform into a do-it-all hybrid and slapped the name Tactical Turkey on it. They wrapped the whole thing in Realtree camo to blend into the spring woods, threw on a collapsible stock for that operator vibe, stuck some glowing fiber optic sights up top, and kept the price right around the same $400 to $500 as a standard field model, so it wouldn't scare off the average Joe. On paper, it was genius. One gun for gobbler sunrise and midnight home defense. A 20-inch barrel short enough to swing in a hallway, but still long enough for a decent pattern on a strutting tom, and the same twin-action bar pump that's been cycling flawlessly since Vietnam. The market loved the idea. Mossberg was already eating Remington's lunch in the value segment, and turkey hunters were gobbling up anything with adjustable length of pull and ghost ring sights. But the moment you shouldered it, reality hit like a bad hangover. Those factory sights came misaligned straight out of the box, turning tight turkey groups into shotgun confetti that looked more like a blooming onion than a headshot pattern. The collapsible stock, supposed to give you custom fit, rattled and flexed like a dollar store toy every time you work the action, throwing off your cheek weld and making follow-up shots a gamble. Balance? Forget it. Add a sling or a light, and the gun turned nose-heavy, fatiguing your arms on long sits in the blind or slow walks through the house. Worst of all, even the famous Mossberg reliability took a coffee break. Ejection got lazy, shells hung up on the carrier, and light target loads turned the gun into a single-shot disappointment. Guys who bought it for versatility ended up packing a dedicated turkey rig in the truck and a 590 for the nightstand anyway, because this jack-of-all-trades mastered exactly none. Mossberg builds tanks that survive apocalypses. The Tactical Turkey was the rare moment. They tried to build a multi-tool and handed you a butter knife instead. Savage Arms was riding high in the post-war boom when they decided to challenge the pump-action kings with something sleeker, something that promised the rapid-fire thrill of a semi-auto without breaking the bank. And that something was the 755A, rolling out in the early 50s with a price tag that hovered right around a couple $100, making it an instant eye-catcher for upland hunters and waterfowlers who wanted to keep up with the Joneses without emptying their wallets. The gun itself turned heads with its streamlined receiver, crisp checkering on the walnut, and those long, graceful barrels in 26 or 28 inches, chambered for either 12 or 16 gauge, so you could chase quail one weekend and honkers the next. On the plus side, when it ran smooth as butter on hot toast, cycling those heavy field loads with a satisfying mechanical whisper that made you feel like you were holding the future. The balance was decent for a gas gun. The trigger broke clean enough for follow-up shots on crossing birds, and the overall fit and finish gave off that classic American craftsmanship vibe that Savage was known for back when made in USA still meant something special. Market-wise, it slotted right between the budget pumps from Mossberg and the emerging premium autos, aiming to grab the guy who wanted more than a single follow-up but couldn't stomach the cost of a Browning Auto 5. Thing is, that clever little gas system was a house of cards. Light target loads, or anything with a bit of age on it would short stroke, so bad you'd swear someone swapped your semi for a bolt action, and those tiny pistons and rings wore out faster than a cheap pair of boots on a gravel road. The walnut stock checked and split if you so much as breathed on it wrong in humid duck blinds. The bluing rubbed off like cheap paint, and by the time you needed a new spring or seal, good luck finding one outside a gunsmith's junk drawer. Meanwhile, the Remington 1100 launched a few years later and basically laughed the 755A out of the room with better reliability, softer recoil, and parts you could actually buy at any hardware store. Savage's big swing at gas-operated glory ended up a foul tip, leaving the 755A as little more than a footnote in gun magazines and a cautionary tale on the used rack. Alright, let's linger on this one because it stings extra hard for the Winchester faithful. Back in the swinging 60s, the company that built its empire on silky smooth Model 12s and heirloom-grade over-unders decided to chase the everyman's dollar with the 1200 Defender, a stripped-down pump price to scrap with the Remington 870 and Mossberg 500, usually landing right around the 200 to 300 mark depending on the week sale flyer. They kept it simple on purpose. 18-inch cylinder bore barrel, bead sight, no frills wood or later synthetic stock, and a magazine tube that held plenty for home defense or a cruiser back seat. On paper, it was the people's champion, a way for the brand to stay relevant when every cop shop and nervous homeowner wanted affordable reliability. The upside was real for a minute. It pointed quick in dim hallways, cycled fast when you practiced, and the Winchester name on the receiver gave it instant street cred at the counter. But the cost-cutting axe fell hard. Those skinny action bars bent like coat hangers after a couple hundred hot loads, turning a crisp pump into a clunky two-stage grind. The aluminum trigger housing wore egg-shaped holes until the sear felt like stirring oatmeal, and the crossbolt safety started clicking itself off if the gun bumped the seat on a hard stop. Bluing rubbed to bare steel from plain leather slings, screws backed out on their own, and the fore end developed a wobble that rattled louder than incoming fire. In a market already dominated by tanks that ate abuse and kept running, the 1200 became the cautionary tale whispered in gun shops. Legendary logo, forgettable guts. Die-hard collectors still pay premiums for pre-64 Model 12s with the same reverence reserved for classic cars, while 1200s gather dust in the used rack. A reminder that democratizing defense sometimes just means spreading disappointment. Crowning our Hall of Shame is the Ithaca Mag 10 Roadblocker, a 10-gauge juggernaut that rolled out of the early 80s determined to stop vehicles cold and humble anyone foolish enough to stand in its way. Ithaca packed 11 pounds of unforgiving steel around a gas piston thicker than a soda can, capped it with a brutal 22-inch barrel, and slapped on a price tag well over $1,000 that made police purchasers sweat. Marketed as the ultimate SWAT breaching tool, it promised to punch through engine blocks, barricades, and egos with earth-shaking 10-gauge slugs that could drop big game at absurd distances, instantly earning a cult following among power junkies who crave raw authority over practicality. In theory, it dominated a narrow tactical niche where standard 12-gauge pumps fell short, giving departments with fat budgets a nuclear option for the rarest high-risk calls. Reality hit harder than the recoil. Every trigger pull slammed your shoulder like a car wreck, leaving bruises that lasted days and turning casual range sessions into endurance tests. The oversized gas system gulped carbon and locked solid after a handful of rounds, forcing operators to beat the action open while suspects escaped. At that weight, it turned doorways into obstacle courses, exhausted arms in minutes, and transformed stairwells into nightmares no cop wanted on shift. Cleaning required a toolbox and a theology degree, something street officers simply didn't carry between emergencies. Departments ran the numbers, felt the kick, watched the jams, and ordered pallets of lighter, cheaper, proven Remington 870s and Mossberg 590s that worked dirty, wet, or dropped. The mag, tin vanished from active service, collecting dust in evidence cages and fetching collector premiums from nostalgia hunters who never have to shoot it. It stands as the ultimate proof that bigger, louder, and pricier can equal worse when physics, ergonomics, and real-world budgets enter the chat. And that's the list. 10 shotguns that prove slick brochures and famous roll marks don't load the chamber for you. Next time you're staring at a shiny new scattergun, ask yourself if it runs when it's dirty, cold, and the stakes are real. Because a reliable 12 gauge is a friend for life, and a fancy failure is just expensive junk. If this saved you from a regret purchase, hammer that like button, share your own war stories down below, and tap the bell so we can keep calling out the duds. Stay frosty, shoot straight, and we'll catch you in the next upload.